Hey everyone, this is Jason. Um, just wanted to let you know a little bit about me as this class starts and kind of tell you what got me to this point of being your instructor for this type of class. For me, it goes way back. It goes back to watching the first Rocky Balboa movie when I was very young, and the movie inspired me to want to exercise. It wasn't about the fighting scenes, the boxing. It was everything he did to train to prepare for that fight. I just got excited about that. That was so cool, right? And so I was a teenager, and then I started doing some exercise myself, and then just kind of went from there. And he got into weightlifting and everything in high school. Many years later, I was in my parents' house, and we were helping them put a fence up after a hurricane. Me and my brother-in-law's almost, work on this fence. And all the neighbors' fences were down practically because of the storm. It tore everything up, knocked down trees and everything. And one of the neighbors behind my parents, who has like a double lot, he's out there and he's like in his early 70s. And he climbed up on a little A-frame ladder by himself, and he gets a pitchfork and he starts scraping shingles off of the roof of his shed in his backyard by himself, right? So he's removing the shingles so he can put new shingles on the roof. And I was like amazed. I was like, how can somebody that old be that strong to be able to balance themselves on a ladder while they're doing all this pushing and pulling motions right above their head and not fall off? And at that moment, it changed everything for me. It was no longer like the be inspired by Rocky Balboa or Sylvester Stallone training for that, that movie. It was that guy. It's like, I want to be like him one day. Like I'm already, healthy at that age, but at some point I'm going to be in my 70s. And so it made me really rethink what I thought fitness was. And it was no longer just about maybe the way I looked or, things like that. The way my clothes fit, those things are still important to me, but it became longevity. What is he doing that's allowed him to get to that point in his life and be that strong and function that well? And as I started thinking, I thought, wow, I always see him walk in the neighborhood, like for exercise, right? Just out by himself walking. I thought, okay, that's cardio workouts. I know what that is. So he's always doing cardio workouts, good for the heart and lungs, the rest of the body as well. And he's got a big double lot on his property. And that double lot, part of it is a huge garden. And started thinking, he's working that garden. If you've ever worked soil, worked a garden before, it's quite a bit of strength training. So there's a lot of pushing, pulling, digging, and things like that, stooping, bending, squatting, lunging, all those movements. I thought, okay, he's doing that as well to maintain his strength. So he's not going to the local gym, get on the treadmill, and he's not going, somewhere and completing a CrossFit workout or lifting weights at the gym. He's just working around his neighborhood within his own area, right? Walking in the neighborhood, working in that garden. And I thought, okay, and if he's gardening, he's probably eating those things. So fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables and things on that garden. So he's taking in good nutrients that his body needs. And again, that made me just rethink this whole idea of what wellness and fitness and health could be for myself. And he became my role model at that moment. That's what I'm shooting for. And especially in the last 20 years, looking back at that, and thinking I'm working towards my 70s, right? What do I want from it? And it's not about it looking like an airbrushed model to me. It's not looking like I have had filters on my pictures. It's not about that mirrored image sometimes we worry about. It's really about function and longevity. And so in this class, that's my approach for y'all. About half of it is exercise that you're going to see with the class, that you're going to learn about exercise, the basics of how to, track what you're doing so that you're successful. But the other half's the part of the equation a lot of people don't look at, like what's going on with my mental health? How's that affecting me in stress and how those things affecting me? Also looking at things like nutrition. Are you getting enough nutrients in your diet that help you reduce your risk of diseases? And then we also look at things like disease risk reduction. Which diseases I'm a higher risk for, and then what kind of plans could I put together, goals could I set so that I could be like that person in their 70s, climbing a ladder, 70-something years old by themselves with a pitchfork over their head, scraping shingles off of a roof. And to let you know that roof he was scraping the shingles off of, that was not a tough shed that he had purchased at Home Depot or Lowe's. This was something he had made himself. He had built his own shed in the backyard. So again, he's doing a lot of things, right, that are helping him stay strong and function by moving his body, building things, working the garden. And so we may not get an opportunity to do that. That may not be our passion to work a garden or to build our own shed. But there's plenty of equipment and things at local gyms and things you can do at your home, you'll find, to help you maintain a level of strength similar to what he's maintained just through being aware and setting up a really good exercise program. So that's what this class is to me for y'all. And then the last thing I hope for you is that this class is not Hall of Shame. And so let me quickly explain Hall of Shame. You've probably heard of Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame being like, the Hall of Fame for the NFL or for baseball or wherever it is. Hall of Shame to me is probably what we've all come to class with, which would be an experience, maybe many experiences with PE that you thought were shameful, meaning what that coach did, what that teacher in that classroom did or said, how they set that lesson up with you in PE or athletics was harmful, as in mentally harmful to you, something where you started to dislike something. The example I like using, because most of you have been probably in Texas and you've been through the PACER test in elementary and junior high PE. And so if you remember the PACER test, it was simply what? Everybody lines up in the gym. There's about 60 kids. The coach starts the little test, turns on the machine, and all of a sudden you hear beep, and they have everybody just kind of walk across real fast to the other side of the gym. And they have to get there. The whole class gets there before the next tone, the next beep. But they start decreasing the amount of time between those beeps, right? Those tones. And you have to kind of pick up the pace and go a little faster with each lap and a little faster. And eventually you're pretty much running back and forth trying to keep up with it. And with 60 kids in there, somebody's going to be first. Someone's going to be the very first person who has to step out and just, they're not capable of going anymore. And at that point, I think that's Hall of Shame, because now in front of their peers, everyone else got to watch them and see what their score was, and they had to be humiliated possibly by walking away and stopping. That's what I want this class to be for. I don't want there to be any part of this class you feel like is Hall of Shame, where you just had this negative experience where you might hate something about PE. And so most of what we do in this class, you'll see, will be probably relevant to you individually. So it's not like a big group setting like that was set up with the PACER test. And so with the fitness assessment, as you're completing that during the first week, you're noticing that you're on your own. And so you have privacy. No one's counting your score for you. And all these people are not watching. And so I think that's beneficial. So that's my goal with everything. When we're doing diet, when we're looking at disease, there's nothing that you're reporting back to your peers in this class. No one's seeing those things. Now, as you turned it in on to me through D2L, I will look over it, grade it, and you'll see the feedback I give you. But trust me, there is no judgment if you're sending your measurements in. I don't honestly pay attention to it. I just look to see it's completed, because the information is purely for you to help you try to work towards those long-term goals. Maybe again, like being that neighbor behind my parents who's just living this really wonderful life in his 70s and functioning so well and feeling so good, right? And so that's my approach. None of this should feel like Hall of Shame to you. And at the end of the semester, what I'll ask for is feedback from everyone. And I take that into account every semester and adjust assignments as we go. And so that's what I hope from you to be honest with me as well on how things went with these assignments. And if anything felt like Hall of Shame to you for any reason, you can let me know about that. And that helps me, again, tweak it as we go from semester to semester. So that's what the class is. I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions, drop by the gym anytime in my office or office hours, or just check me if you want to come by and say hi. I love to talk to everybody and just chat about this class or anything else to do with fitness in person. The other thing you'll see is we have Teams, Microsoft Teams, that we have available to us. And so if you would ever like to just meet like this, kind of back and forth to the camera, where I could kind of help you with some tutoring or instructions on one of the assignments, I'm more than willing to do that. I mean, that's the fun part for me, because I don't have the energy of being in a class, like a face-to-face class. And so for me, it's very enjoyable to get to talk to y'all either in person or through Teams or email as well, if that's what you prefer. But again, just please, I am here to help. Let me know. And I look forward to having a great semester, y'all. Take care.